We have not asked for endorsement from any candidate for this video. Who is Zohran Mamdani? He is a young Muslim man from Uganda who won the Democratic primary for mayor in New York City by the largest margin in history. How did he do that? One way was by promising most New Yorkers what they want. He promised, 1, he'd stop rents going up.
And so I'm going to ask you one more time. We're running to freeze the, to freeze the, to freeze the, to freeze the. You have my commitment, you have my word, and together on June 24th, we're going to win this race so that next year we freeze the rents.
Mamdani also promised too. He'd create government-run stores that would sell groceries more cheaply than supermarkets do. 3, he'd make bus transportation free for all New Yorkers. 4, he would provide free childcare. 5, he would pay for all this by raising taxes on whiter New Yorkers and businesses.
Who would you like to see become the next mayor here in New York City?
Zohran Mamdani, of course.
Why
Mamdani.
so?
I really like what he says about the rent freezes are a big one for me. City-owned grocery stores are also a huge factor for me. I don't use the buses that often, but that's pretty cool for the bus takers of New York.
Will these policies make New York more affordable? And if not, what policies would make New York more affordable? Let's examine the policies one by one to answer that question. We'll start with 1. Freezing the rent. Freezing the rent is a form of price control. Price controls lead to shortages. What happened in Venezuela is a classic example of that. Price controls created a shortage of toilet paper, milk, and other goods.
70-year-old Maria Rojas said she had been trying to find toilet rolls for 2 weeks before locating a few rolls in a supermarket in Caracas. She said, "Even at my age, I've never seen this."
Rent control doesn't only lead to shortages of housing, it often leads to deterioration of properties as well.
You're seeing some dilapidated living conditions largely as the result of rent control. Jen, you've done some urban archaeology and explored these places. Tell us how bad it gets.
Yeah, so I went to 3 different rent-stabilized properties in New York City, in different parts of town, and saw some very graphic images of pretty older apartments that once used to be very beautiful properties that turned into decaying, almost like rotting. And we, just driving by New York City, we could see a lot of boarded up buildings, especially in Harlem area, in Upper West Side. Usually those areas were considered to be up and coming, but you could see a lot of decay. And these scenery, that the pictures that I described is just the signs of broader urban decay, because this is happening when there's a historically high housing shortages in New York City. There's only about 2% of vacant apartments. And at the same time, these properties that could be renovated are staying there empty. And the landlords are willing to renovate them, but it's the policies that we have that are putting them in a position where there's no funds for them to do it.
Mamdani's freeze the rent policy will increase the shortage of apartments available for rent in New York City. People who want to move to New York will have to rent on the black market at exorbitant prices. Might better policies to bring down rents and increase available housing be to 1. Lower taxes on landlords so that they are not forced to pass those taxes on to tenants in the form of high rent. 2. Lower taxes on builders so that they will build more housing. 3. Make it financially feasible to renovate abandoned buildings. 4. Lower taxes on everyone so that they can afford to live in New York City. There is a candidate for mayor who thinks so. His name is Curtis Sliwa.
And the other way you actually address affordability, none of the candidates talk about this. You slash the taxes, the income tax, the corporate tax, the property taxes. You have congestion pricing right here, which is covered in this area where you broadcast from. It is destroying businesses all up and down the corridor. It's another tax, speed cameras. higher sewage rates, water rates, electricity rates. You are basically being taxed from the cradle to the grave and being driven out of New York City. I want people to improve and not move. And there's only one way you're going to get them to stay: if you put money in their pocket so they can actually spend it and fuel the economy here.
We already discussed one of the promises Mamdani made that enabled him to win the Democrat primary, freezing the rent. He also made another promise: bringing down the price of food with government-run grocery stores.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores.
So we pulled in a grocery store owner. John Katzimatidis is here. He's the chairman and CEO of the Red Apple Group, which owns and operates supermarkets across the city. Anybody who's ever lived in New York knows the Gristidis chain. Welcome to you. Good to have you here, John.
Thank you for having me here. And we have the highest cost in the country, highest energy cost, highest transportation costs. We even have congestion pricing. And in union costs. So, of course.
What's your prediction if the government owns and operates grocery stores?
They're going to go broke.
Who's going to go broke?
The government will end up going broke. You're going to end up like Havana. I was there in Havana with Fidel Castro. The shelves were empty. He promised the world to the people. He says, get rid of Batista and things will be great. Well, it was all one big lie.
Zohran Mamdani says that a government-run grocery store has been tried in Kansas City and has been a success.
When we talk about grocery stores, I've put forward a proposal for a pilot of one grocery store in each borough. These are 5 grocery stores that would cost $60 million in a city budget of more than $113 billion. And ultimately, the reason that we are so excited by them is we've seen that they've worked in Kansas.
You ever walked into a grocery store and it smells like a crime scene at a sewage plant? No? That never happened to you? Well, unless you've been to the Kansas City government-run grocery store, the KC Sunfresh, you're missing out on a stench of socialism in real time.
As a voice for everyone, we're following up on tips we received from viewers about deteriorating conditions at the Sunfresh grocery store in the Linwood Shopping Center off Prospect.
First off, the smell. It's just ridiculous.
I watch people walk in and walk out.
The grocery store has received financial assistance from the city, but has been unable to keep those shelves stocked in an area that in the past has often been referred to as a food desert.
And it will impact a lot of people and a lot of families.
KSHB 41 News reporter Alyssa Jackson went to the store to witness it for herself and is amplifying the voices of frustrated customers and community leaders.
It's clear this Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect is struggling. This is the first section people see when they come in. There's barely any produce. A lot of the coolers and shelves around the store look the same way, empty. So shoppers have been asking us, if the store isn't closing, then where is all the food?
A rotten smell comes through the door, and anywhere you turn, you'll see products that need to be restocked. No hot food or deli.
There was a time this store was on life support. I can tell you today, right now, it's damn near dead.
Well, look, this was in a food desert, the urban core. There's a lack of grocery store in the urban core. But the problem is it's also an oasis of crime. That's why no grocery store wanted to move in. So the city subsidized it. They ended up losing $15 million of taxpayer money over this. The crime only increased in that area. There were shootings and robberies. And now it's a failure. The same has happened with the bus system there. The mayor decided during COVID to give free bus fares. It was a $26 billion loss for the bus company, and it didn't work. And now they're back to $2 rides. The same system that failed in Kansas City will fail in New York.
Look at these images. The soda machine is out of order. The shelves are bare. Some of the apples look like they were rotting. This is not a success. And as far as crime, they're dealing with drug dealing there, theft, homelessness. All the reports I'm reading say people don't want to shop there because it smells like sewage, and they have to boost the police patrols there. But how will we boost patrols here in New York City if Zohran Mamdani wants to defund the police.
More of your reaction to Mamdani in his own words, John. And this is him taking to TikTok, as he often does, and he's spreading his message there widely, explaining how these city-owned grocery stores would work. Listen.
We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
Sounds to me like he just accused you of price gouging.
Price gouging? We're paying the highest taxes in the world. You give us the incentives and we'll lower the prices. You get rid of the real estate taxes. We'll lower the prices. I mean, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He is promising the people the world.
Yeah.
And it's all a bunch of, how does Trump say it? A bunch of crap.
Okay.
And look, we run a great operation for 50 years in the supermarket business. And but you can't fight City Hall. God forbid this guy wins.
Yeah. And by the way, you spread a lot of your wealth charitably. I've been to these events, police events and beyond, where you are trying to help the inner city kids and develop them however best you can. You're very generous. Rick Scott was on your WABC radio show on Sunday talking about these Dem policies and what they would do to people like you who spend a lot of money in this city and are very charitable, what you might do and where you might go. Listen.
Every elected official in New York on the Democrat side seems like they were just recruiting people to move to Florida because it's just insanity.
Joy Behar interviewed Mamdani on The View and was supportive of Mamdani's plan for government-owned grocery stores. Here is the reaction of David Rubin to Joy Behar's support of Mamdani's policies.
They're going to, that man you are talking to with his soft voice and his perfect suit and haircut, is going to destroy New York City. He is a communist and a radical, and I would say he's jihad adjacent. The best way to control grocery prices is to have the government do it. That's what you guys want right now. How about there's something called competition? And when you get the government out of the way, then a lot of grocery stores start appearing in places, a lot of different stores offering different services, offering different products come in, and then they start competing. And what that competition does is it causes prices to get lower because people want to outsell the competitor. And it also increases innovation because people basically want to build a better mousetrap. So you'll shop at their store and elsewhere. But no, you want centralized control over everything. And I would just say, Joy, the protections of the Upper West Side may not afford you a lot of comfort once this lunatic takes over.
Mamdani blames greedy grocery store owners for the high cost of groceries. Are greedy grocery store owners the reason groceries are so expensive? Or are the high taxes they pay to a greedy government the reason groceries are so expensive? In a free market, competition drives down prices. When all grocery store owners pay high taxes, they can't lower their prices. It's not just high taxes. The cost of retail theft drives up the cost of groceries and everything else. Bail reform laws result in shoplifters being released to shoplift again. Mamdani supports these laws. He complains about groceries being unaffordable, but he supports laws that make groceries unaffordable.
In New York, shoplifting accounts for $4.4 billion of economic activity. That's ridiculous. And what it means is that literally nothing in this town is safe. Everything gets stolen from every type of store there is. If every business in this city is a potential target for criminals, they've either got to spend more money on security or they're going to have to eventually shut down when the crime costs them so much money that they have to go out of business. And here's how that affects the price of your apartment. Your landlord, they probably just don't own only this one place. In fact, a lot of rental properties, they're in buildings like this one where you've got 20 apartments in total, all owned by one big company. And the landlords that own these, they don't just get their money from our apartment after we rent it, they get their money from the neighboring apartment and the other neighboring apartment, but they also get their money from the storefronts at ground level. For example, check out this building across the street. They've got an empty storefront on their ground level. That place doesn't earn any money. And if there are apartments upstairs, those may not make enough money at their current rents to satisfy the landlord's bills. And this creates a weird situation that not everybody's aware of. The more money that landlords lose on their ground ground floor properties that nobody wants to rent, the more they're going to look to their apartments and their other properties to get some of that money back. Which means that by allowing the types of crime you're about to see to go on day after day, week after week, our soft on crime laws have a lot to do with the unaffordability issues facing many New Yorkers.
From smash and grabs to mobs of thieves, retail theft is rampant.
They come here, they steal, and I told them they're hurting the neighborhood.
Here in New York City, officials say of the tens of thousands of retail thefts a year, 30% are committed by just 327 criminals.
Locks and chains, that's what bodega owners across the city say they need to keep thieves from stealing their livelihoods.
Theft is nothing new, but a recent spree of coordinated, big-scale robberies has law enforcement and retailers warning this is not simple shoplifting by those in need. It's organized retail crime by professional crews.
Retailer is just open game. Walk away with anything and nobody's going to challenge.
The NYPD says it's that group of criminals arrested and rearrested 6,000 times that they're focused on.
We are all victims when retail theft happens. It drives up the cost of things, and it also creates this environment where people are hesitant
to shop where goods are locked up.
Where does Mamdani say he will get the money to pay for all his promises? By increasing taxes on white people, millionaires and businesses.
Now along comes this socialist mayor. He says, we're going to solve all our problems and make everybody happy by taxing the rich. The top 1% of taxpayers in New York pay about 50% of the tax revenue in the income tax. That is, we're talking about less than 100,000 people in a city of 8 million. So this man is apt to accelerate departure of the people who are already paying the bills, and they are his plan for paying even more of the bills.
What's happening with the budget? Someone asked me today, we're going to raise income taxes. I said, I'm not raising income taxes. I said, I'm not. I stopped a huge income tax increase last year. I don't think it's a good strategy for economic development to find more reasons for businesses to leave the state of New York or our high net worth people who I say, I'm happier in New Yorker. And maybe they didn't hear that for a long time with Occupy Wall Street and all this other socialism that was going on. But you need to be reassured that the people who are actually in elective office in the highest positions right here don't support that. I come out of a business family. They worked hard. Taxes are a factor in your calculation of where you're going to do your business, and I want you to stay here, and I want you to grow, and I want you to be successful. That is my promise to all of you.
One thing that Governor Hochul didn't mention is that corporations pass on their costs, including their taxes, onto their consumers. Raising taxes on corporations would make New York an even more expensive place to live in. Another thing that Governor Hochul didn't mention is that many middle-class people have stock and retirement plans that will lose value if taxes on corporations are increased. Governor Hochul says she's against raising taxes, but she endorsed Mamdani. Governor Hochul probably endorsed Mamdani, whose tax policies she says she opposes because she was afraid she wouldn't be re-elected governor if she didn't. That shows she's weak and may give in to pressure to raise taxes. In addition, even if she shows some backbone and refuses to raise taxes, she can be overridden by the very left-wing New York legislature. Mamdani promised free buses. The MTA is billions of dollars in debt. New York City is projected to have an annual average deficit of $12.6 billion from 2025 to 2027. A major reason for that is that New York is a sanctuary city that houses thousands of migrants. Mamdani has pledged to reinforce and expand the city's status as a sanctuary city. He plans to drive away the New York tax base with increased taxes. Where is he going to get money to pay the bus drivers we already have if he continues the policies that increase the deficit? He will be forced to cut back on the number of buses in New York City. When the government abolishes private property and seizes the means of production, it is communism and brings about economic ruin. Countries whose governments have seized the means of production and ruined their economies when they did so include Venezuela, Cuba, Zimbabwe, and the Soviet Union when Stalin was in power. Mamdani wants to do it here in New York. Mamdani believes that abolishing private property will solve the homeless problem. He has said that his end goal is seizing the means of production.
If there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production.
Welcome back to the Nate Friedman Show.
Do you mind if I ask you about who you want to win, Mamdani or Cuomo?
Of course not Mamdani.
Okay, and why not Mamdani?
Because I'm from Ukraine, and I don't like any communist ideas. We had enough of them. I think the young generation needs to learn what is it communism and why it didn't work and why those ideas not working.
Yeah. So let's say the younger generation is listening, because they are. Why doesn't communism work? Why won't it work in New York?
Because you can say also in Venezuela, they try to do free supermarkets and they collapse, and same thing over here. And once you do everything by the government, so the government basically going to control everything, and that's something we don't want to have.
Yeah. So if the government controls everything, why won't it work specifically in New York? Because people are really excited. About
people are. The same thing happened in 1913 in Russia. Same thing. People were excited about communism and how everything should be equal and blah blah blah. But by the end of the day, 70 years later, everything collapsed and everybody noticed all the disaster that Stalin did and all the dark side of communism.
Escape from New York, the tax base has been fleeing the Empire State. And that was before a socialist was the front runner to be mayor of its biggest city. The top 1% pays more than 40% of all income taxes in New York. That means social services, benefits, healthcare, education. Well, those people are packing their bags and they're moving south. The numbers just don't lie. Over 125,000 New Yorkers moved to Florida alone, and with them went a combined $14 billion in income. That's a big ouch right there, Gary. Do you think that the flow of people down south to southern states like beautiful Florida, is that going to stop when Mamdani's elected?
Let me just state, if able, business people and capital will flock to where it's treated best. And all I can tell you, in my city in Florida, you have stores, restaurants, schools, hospitals, you name it, going up because people keep coming in, and they are coming from New York and other states, the blue states that continue to disrespect the taxpayer with high taxes and ridiculous regulations, fees, fines, mandates, you name it. And it is stunning to me, after we have these statistics already, that the voters in New York would vote. This man's, I wish he was a socialist. He makes a socialist look like a Republican. That's how bad he is. And unfortunately, he's not even hiding it. When he says the means of production, that is right out of the Marx booklet, and it is going to be bad news if he follows suit. And I am heartbroken for this city, because I can promise you the tax base is going to be running out of here.
Mamdani has promised to defund the police.
I am in favor of defunding the police.
Now, you also want to cut the police budget, and people are upset about that, right? They feel like crime is all over the place. I think a couple of days ago, 2 people got shot in Times Square. The other day, I think another girl got shot in the face in the Bronx. So people are very scared. It seems like New York is getting worse than getting better. So what do you say that, at a time like this, cutting the police budgets, that seems like that is taking more police officers off the street?
I want to be very clear. We are not defunding the police.
Here are Zohran tweets in which he expresses his opinion of the police. Tweet 1. We don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is a racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. Tweet 2. What we need is to defund the NYPD. Tweet 3. Our mayor uses budget tricks to keep as many cops as possible on the beat. Tweet 4. No to fake cuts. Defund the police.
Let's be honest, this is not just tweets. Zohran Mamdani is a seated elected official. Not only did he run for the New York State Assembly, but he has served and voted in the New York State Assembly to defund the police at every opportunity.
That's a really key point. I don't
Key
mean to
point,
interrupt.
an elected official who
That's
has
right.
voted over and over and over again for the past number of years to defund the police.
This is his record as an elected official. He's trying to weasel out of that, too.
But here we go to where is Zohran Mamdani? What is he doing? Well, New York Post actually put an article out there that was very interesting to me, and I have to tell you about this. Inside of Zohran Mamdani's post multi-day Uganda wedding bash with phone jamming system and armed guards. And when you go directly into details on this, socialist New York mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani celebrated his recent nuptials with a lavish 3-day affair at his family's ritzy, secluded Ugandan compound, complete with masked security guards and cell phone jamming systems. The Post has learned about this. So the New York Post is out here outing Zohran Mamdani for not acting very socialist-like. Zohran Mamdani wants to ban all guns and defund the police, and then flies home to Uganda for his wedding celebration, guarded by masked special forces at his family's multi-million-dollar compound. As always, socialism of the not for me.
Zohran has said he wants social workers to respond to 911 calls. He also has said he wants to defund the police. Why didn't he hire social workers instead of armed guards at his wedding in Uganda?
Who's accompanying him now? Armed police officers of the NYPD. See, do as I say, but not as I do. How about have social workers accompany you, Zohran? Now you have 24-hour protection by the NYPD. They drive you around in an SUV, by the way, gas guzzling. If it's good enough for the citizens to have social workers, hey, Zohran, start having social workers accompany you.
Will Zohran Mamdani keep New Yorkers safe?
Deserve a leader that treats public safety with the seriousness it deserves.
Will Zohran Mamdani keep criminals off the street?
So when you have a candidate that states he wants to empty Rikers Island, after bail reform was put in place, the most dangerous people are now going to jail on Rikers Island. When you empty Rikers Island, you're returning those dangerous people back to the communities that they have preyed on. That just makes no sense.
Zohran Mamdani doesn't want you to know that he supports legalized prostitution.
Number one, as a man who said he's a faith, I don't quite understand what religion supports prostitution. And I think he's lost on the fact that sex trafficking is very much part of prostitution. As a mayor of this city, I know what sex trafficking looks like. I know who women who are selling their bodies on the street, their abuse they go through. I know the amount of assault on them. And so those who can find a logical reason that a woman should be on the street, or a boy, because I've seen young boys on the street selling their bodies, being forced to. So this is not a gender thing. That is not healthy. I don't even want to talk about the disease component of it. I don't even want STDs that's connected to it. All the fight that we've done to decrease STDs, we should open the door to that again. We still have an AIDS crisis, or we still have an STD crisis. That is what this is about. It's a public health issue, it's a public safety issue, and it's a moral issue.
Many prostitutes are young women who are forced to be prostitutes against their will. They are victims of sex trafficking. Kat tells what happened to her in the next clip.
He covered my eyes so I couldn't see where we were going. It was really dark.
Their plan was to get Kat and utilize her for the purpose of sex trafficking. They knew it going in. Kat was the unsuspecting one who had no idea, unfortunately. And that's how her nightmare began.
I went to go wake her up for school, and I looked in her room, and I didn't see her. I drove all over town looking for her, and she wasn't there, and that's when we started realizing that something wasn't right.
Kat's parents filed a missing persons report.
So what I'm thinking is my daughter's laying out in the middle of the desert dying, and she's crying for me, and I can't be there.
The night she left home, Kat was driven 30 miles to Phoenix, where she met a third man, who she says was the most frightening of them all, Bryant Flamate.
Bryant was more the enforcer, you could say. He told me, I don't give a who you are. He said, I own you. I own your body. I own you. And you have no say in what you do.
The men took her to a hotel.
And that black truck right there is Jesse Cisneros' truck. This is Jesse Cisneros, this is Bryant Flamate. They arrived to the hotel together, and then here comes Kat.
And this is where Jesse explains, you have a client. And I was like, what are you talking about, I have a client? He was like, you're going to have sex with this man. He was like, you're gonna tell him you're 19 and your name is Rose. And this stranger comes in. He did those things to me. He puts the money in the drawer and then he leaves. It was like my whole world just collapsed.
Over the course of a week, she was taken to homes and hotel rooms and repeatedly sold for sex, until someone saw her outside the hotel, became suspicious, and called the police.
Mamdani will legalize prostitution. He will release criminals, but there are people he will arrest. Zohran Mamdani has said that he would arrest Prime Minister Netanyahu if he came to New York. Why doesn't Mamdani join Netanyahu in demanding the release of the Israeli hostages seized by Hamas? On October 7th, 2023, Mamdani supports boycotting, divesting from and sanctioning Israel, BDS. Why doesn't he support the needy in Israel? Why doesn't he support the Israeli families impoverished by oil-funded terrorist attacks against their tiny country? What about Israeli orphans and widows? What about Israelis who lost their homes to Hamas and Hezbollah rockets? Why doesn't he support the Israeli farmers whose farms were burned by Hamas and Hezbollah rockets? Hamas is seizing food meant for the people of Gaza. Why doesn't Mamdani call on Hamas to stop stealing food instead of threatening to arrest Netanyahu, who distributes food to the people of Gaza? Why does Mamdani call for boycotting Israel? Could it be because his voter base hates Israel and Netanyahu? Could it be because he does as well?
بعد فترة من الآن بعد انهيار المنظومة الأمنية في قطاع غزة أصبح هناك عبارة من الأشخاص المتربدين في داخل حركة حماس لقوة حماس الأمنية أصبحوا قاطعين طرق لهذه المساعدة.
ونتمنى مزيدا من المساعدات ولكن بشرط ألا تصل ليد حماس. إذا وصلت ليد حماس ما حدا حياكل.
إحنا الآن في المخيم ما بخشش علينا اسم.
غباء الحركة الغبية اللي عملتها حماس يوم 7 أكتوبر والمقاومة غير محسوبة النتائج، يجب على كل شريف وعلى كل إنسان وطني وعنده ثروة أخلاق وطنية أنه يدين هذا العمل القبيح والعمل المجرم الذي قامت به حماس.
ولا في عمار ولا في نيبة. بتمنى يمتمس حماس من البلد يروحون متعين حماس. الله يعجلنا اياهم في الدنيا وفي الاخره.
واحنا بنناشد العالم كله بتخليصنا من حماس لانه احنا بدنا نعيش بسلام مع الاسرائيليين.
Is Zohran Mamdani for or against the globalization of the Intifada?
You were recently asked about the term globalize the Intifada, if it makes you uncomfortable. In that moment, you did not condemn the phrase. Now, just so folks understand, it's a phrase that many people hear as a call to violence against Jews. There's been a lot of attention on this issue. So I want to give you an opportunity to respond here and now. Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the Intifada?
That's not language that I use. The language that I use and the language that I will continue to use to lead this city is that which speaks clearly to my intent, which is an intent grounded in a belief in universal human rights. And ultimately, that's what is the foundation of so much of my politics, the belief that freedom and justice and safety are things that, to have meaning, have to be applied to all people, and that includes Israelis and Palestinians alike.
But do you actually condemn it? I think that's the question and the outstanding issue that a number of people, both of the Jewish faith and beyond, have. Do you condemn that phase, globalize the Intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
And to make clear that there's no room for anti-Semitism in this city, and we have to root out that bigotry, and ultimately we do that through the actions, and that is the mayor I will be, one that protects Jewish New Yorkers and lives up to that commitment through the work that I do.
But quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
Could the real reason Zohran Mamdani doesn't want to condemn the phrase globalize the Intifada be that he doesn't want to alienate a large part of his voter base? Could another reason that Mamdani won't condemn the phrase globalize the Intifada be because he wants the Intifada to be globalized? Could the reason Zohran Mamdani denies that Intifada means violent attacks against Jews be because he participated in pro-Intifada demonstrations and doesn't want to be accused of anti-Semitism?
Mamdani insists he's not anti-Semitic and would work to protect the city's Jews.
Every anti-Semite that I've ever come across in my life says they're not an anti-Semite.
Former New York State Assemblyman Dov Hikind, the founder of Americans Against Anti-Semitism, says Mamdani should be judged by what he's done, not by what he says.
If you join people who are chanting vicious anti-Israel, anti-Semitic chants, you're part of that, whether you say the words or not. So, just a week ago, he said, I'm going to set aside more money than ever to fight anti-Semitism. The only thing is, he's the problem. He is the problem. He represents the outbreak of Jew hatred in America, in New York, that we have never seen before, not in my lifetime, that's for sure.
Mamdani whitewashed the term globalize the Intifada and said it is an expression of Palestinian rights. Noah Tishby survived 2 intifadas in Israel. In the following clip, she explains what intifada really means.
Let me start with the first thing that to me is the most violent and the most vile, which is his whitewashing of what Intifada is about. So he keeps saying that globalized Intifada means something else for different people. That is not true. I have lived through 2 Intifadas. I know exactly what they mean. An Intifada means a violent uprising against the Jews. It means car bombing and bus bombing and ramming through people with cars. It means stabbing and shooting. That's what that means. And to globalize that means to take into America and into Western civilization what we have been through in the Middle East.
During the intifadas, buses were a target of attack by Palestinian suicide terrorists. This is a photo of the aftermath of one of many suicide bombings in Israel during the Second Intifada.
The current war with Hamas started with a massacre of young people dancing at the Nova Music Festival on October 2023. That was not the first terrorist attack on young Jewish people dancing. What many people have forgotten is the suicide bombing of Israeli dancers in the Dolphinarium discotheque on June 1st, 2001 during the Second Intifada.
The Intifada is already being globalized in America. In the following clip, Barry Weiss talks about a young Jewish couple that was murdered in Washington, D.C. on May 21st, 2025, by a man who shouted, "Free Palestine."
On Wednesday night, outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., a gunman opened fire and murdered 2 young people because he thought they were Jews, because they were gathered in a Jewish place, and because they were there for an event hosted by a Jewish organization. Before I tell you about their alleged killer and the culture of lies that created the climate for his rampage, I want to tell you about the 2 people that he cut down. And I want to do that because I promise you that there will be no campaigns or hashtags or celebrity videos urging all of us to say their names. Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Milgram, those are their names. They met at work. They were staffers at the Israeli embassy, and they fell in love. Yaron, who was 30 years old, had purchased an engagement ring for Sarah, who was 26, just a few days ago. They were meant to fly to Israel this coming Sunday so that she could meet his parents, who live in Jerusalem, before he proposed.
On June 1st, 2025, an Egyptian man, Mohammed Soliman, firebombed a Run for Their Lives event in Boulder, Colorado. This was a peaceful run for the release of the Israeli hostages being held by Hamas. On June 25th, 2025, 82-year-old Karen Diamond, one of the people he burned, died.
On October 7th, Hamas declared war on Israel. On October 8th, their supporters declared war on America.
It is time to bring the war home! It is time to smash this empire!
The goal of the movement is not just to destroy Israel. Their primary target is the U.S. They call America the enemy, the beast, or simply empire.
Will Zohran Mamdani, who participated in pro-Intifada protests, keep protests like this one from getting out of control? After the massacre of Israelis by Hamas on October 7th, 2023, anti-Israel protesters set up tent encampments on college campuses, harassed Jewish students, took over college buildings, and interfered with students who wanted to study.
This morning, both President Biden and House Speaker Mike Johnson are speaking out about what's happening at Columbia. The same pro-Palestinian demonstrators who've been camped out on campus for 2 weeks are now occupying a building at the university. They broke into Hamilton Hall on Columbia's main New York campus overnight, smashing out windows. Dozens of protesters formed a human chain. They locked arms in front of the building, then they carried furniture and metal tables to the entrance to form a barricade. Students who are not part of the protest complain this is a huge disruption just a few days before finals.
Eden Yadigar, a student at Columbia, spoke about being harassed there at a congressional hearing on anti-Semitism.
We have been attacked with sticks outside of our library. We have been surrounded by angry mobs, and we have been threatened to, quote, keep running.
Mamdani says that he won't send police to remove encampments from college campuses, claiming that doing so makes campuses less safe.
It is a repression that extends even to the ways in which we choose when to send police officers onto college campuses. The incident around encampments here at Brooklyn College, the decision to surge officers into that site is one that leaves students less safe than they were before. And that is why I have said, as a mayor who will live up to Eric Adams of all people's statement in 2021, that New Yorkers need not choose between safety and justice, that I will be committed to delivering actual safety, not to the use of the term as a means of repression. And so this commitment is one that I do not just make as a candidate, it is also one that I will fulfill as the mayor of this city.
Mahmoud Khalil immigrated to the United States from Syria. When asked on his immigration application, "Have you ever, or do you intend, to provide financial assistance or other support to terrorists or terrorist organizations?" he wrote no, less than a year after arriving at Columbia on a student visa. 30-year-old Khalil was leading American undergraduates in actions in support of Hamas after its October 7th attack. He participated in taking over a building at Columbia and organized an encampment that harassed Jewish students. ICE arrested Khalil. Mamdani was furious and yelled at Tom Homan, the border czar, about violating the First Amendment. Yet the First Amendment does not allow for illegal actions in support of a terrorist organization. Mamdani pretends he's for the First Amendment, which protects free speech. But he tried to prevent Charlie Kirk from speaking in New York. He signed a letter that said, providing a platform for the kind of transphobic, bigoted views held by invited speakers, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, and others, goes directly against the diversity and inclusivity that we hold dear as New Yorkers, and is an insult to every member of our community. By signing that letter, Mamdani showed that he's not for free speech, he's not for inclusivity when it comes to Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk, and he's not for diversity of opinion. There were police keeping tabs on this protest. This protest was non-violent. Will these protesters be non-violent if Mamdani is mayor and controls the police? He has promised that he will not interfere with pro-Palestinian protests.
Muhammad's curse on disbelievers, those who are disbelievers, those who are your enemies, you can curse them.
Radical Muslims globalized their violence to America on September 11, 2001.
American Boston. Please listen very carefully. This is Amy Sweeney on Flight 11. We've been hijacked. 2 attendants have been stabbed. Do you have any idea where you're headed? No. People in coach think it's a routine emergency. We've asked for a doctor, but none's on board.
Can you tell us anything more about the hijackers?
Yes. They have knives and mace. They say they have a bomb. Okay. How are the people who were stabbed? One flight attendant's okay. I'm not sure. The other may not make it. Oh my God, something's wrong here! What's happening? Amy, are you still there? We're in rapid descent. We're all over the place. Can you look out the window and tell us where you are? I see water, buildings. We're flying low. We're flying way too low.
After they heard the news on September 11, 2001, that 3,000 Americans had died, Palestinian Arabs celebrated.
The V sign for victory being displayed in East Jerusalem today among jubilant Palestinians that the United States had been subject to this attack.
Could Al-Qaeda strike New York again? They plan to. According to a leak from the National Counter-Terrorism Center, Islamic terrorists affiliated with Al-Qaeda have infiltrated U.S. soil and are actively planning simultaneous strikes against multiple cities. Will Zohran Mamdani's policies help prevent future terrorist attacks on New York City? He criticized the FBI for its surveillance of Anwar al-Awlaki, a man who joined Al-Qaeda, the terrorist group that attacked the United States on September 11, 2001. He also said that he plans to disband New York City's counter-terrorism strategic response group.
Sam Daibabe is a Jordanian Muslim. He gives his insights into who Zohran Mamdani is in the following clip. There are terms to know that will help in understanding what he says. Jizya means a special protection tax Muslims impose on non-Muslims. Taqiyya means lying. Lying to non-Muslims is permitted in Islam if it advances the power of Islam.
بيبي أنت ساكن هناك، وشو اعتبارك، شو تحليلك بده يصير في نيويورك على خلفية رئيس البلدية زهران؟
طبعا زهران ممداني يعني إسلامي متطرف جدا وشيوعي معادي للشركات، راح يسبب كارثة اقتصادية لنيويورك إذا فاز بالانتخابات. هذا الشخص يعني بتمويل قطري ودعم تركي ودعم إيراني يحاول تغيير وجه نيويورك الآن.
لماذا هو متطرف؟ يعني لماذا هو هيك متعصب، ولماذا هذا التعصب عنده شعبية في نيويورك؟
في سببين مهمين. زهران ممداني من عائلة إسماعيلية، لكنه ذهب إلى يعني الحسينيات وحول من إسماعيلي، والإسماعيليين تعرف عادة يكونوا أقل تطرفا ومتسامحين، لكنه تحول إلى 12 مش زي عائلته. يعني الرجل درس الشريعة الشيعية ودرس شريعة الإمام المهدي وتحول من إسماعيل إلى 12، فالرجل عنده عقائدية. في مشكلة كبيرة مش بس في اليهود الموجودين في نيويورك، أيضا البيض، الآسيويين من كل الأعراق، انهم يعني يصدقوا التقيه. يطلع زهران ممداني يذهب الى اجتماعيات يعني الوقفات التظاهريه لدعم المثليين، لدعم النساء، لدعم كل الاقليات، ويخاطبهم بلغتهم، يقول لهم انه انا يعني شخص ملون، لست ابيض، انا ضد النظام الذكوري الابيض المسيحي، انا اريد حقوقكم، بدنا نظام شيوعي، كنا نكون متساويين. للاسف الشديد ما في جهود اعلاميه من العالم العربي لتوعية المجتمع الأمريكي عن خطورة الكذب الموجود عند الإسلاميين. فهو يستخدم التقية، هو يطلع بالإنجليزي، اسمع ما أحلى كلامه، يقول لك كلنا واحد، كلنا متشاركين، يجب أن يكون هناك عدالة. لكن هم ما يعرفوا أنه لما يوصل القوة سيبدأ نظام الإخوان المسلمين. ويمكن لا تستغرب إذا شفت نظام زي نظام الجزية تحت غطاء أنه والله يعني السكان البيض عندهم أموال كثيرة، يجب أن يدفعوا الجزية للمسلمين اللي يعانوا تحت ظل الحكومة الأمريكية. هذا أشياء ممكن يسويها. وزهران ممداني كتب تغريدة قال يجب أن ينقل عبء الضريبة من الأحياء الإسلامية والأحياء المكسيكية إلى الأحياء الغنية والبيضاء. يعني يشوف العنصرية، يهاجم البيض ويطالب برفع الضرائب عليهم بنفس نظام الجزية. فهو خطابه كان اقتصادي أكثر. ممداني يعني كشف خطورة أنه الشعب مش عارف خطورة الإسلاميين، لكنه راح يكون خيبة أمل كبيرة لهم. راح يوصل الحكم، راح تشوف الفساد، راح تشوف كيف تركيا وقطر وإيران راح يشتروا يعني عقارات كثيرة في نيويورك. ولكن راح تشوف دمار اقتصادي كامل، وراح تشوف ثورة ضد الفكر الإسلامي، وراح ينكشف هذا الخداع. بكرة لما يصير في يعني صراع بين الإسلاميين في نيويورك وبين اللوايطة والمتحولين جنسيا، راح ينكشف كل شيء، وراح يختار زهران ممداني الإسلاميين ضد المثليين.
واو. سام الدبيبي زميلنا ومحللنا للشؤون الأمريكية.
شكرا حبيبي.
من أصله شكرا حبيبي على هذا التحليل الرائع. شكرا.
Thank you.
If you want to help prevent Zohran Mamdani from becoming mayor of New York, please share and promote this video as much as possible. For all our sakes, thank you.